I want to start today by describing a very specific feeling. It's usually a Tuesday around 2 p.m.
Hmm.
You're competent, you're a hard worker, you have the title on your LinkedIn profile. But you look at your calendar or maybe your inbox and you just realize with the sinking feeling, I am not actually in charge of any of this.
The calendar's happening too.
Exactly. You're showing up to put out fires, you're reacting to Slack pings like a pinball.
Right.
You're technically moving really fast, sweating through your shirt, but you are not actually steering the car.
And that is what the source material we're covering today calls the passenger trap. And honestly, in the modern workplace, it is where most high-potential careers go to die.
How so?
You get so good at reacting that you forget how to initiate.
It's the firefighter syndrome. If you're always fighting fires, you never build the house.
You never get ahead of it.
So today we are doing a deep dive into Take the Wheel by Vlad Sopov. And I want to set the stage here because I know our listeners, this is not just another management book about, color coding your Outlook calendar.
Oh, no, it's much more aggressive than that. So Sopov frames this as a radical psychological and behavioral overhaul.
An overhaul.
Yeah. He argues the difference between a leader who burns out and one who just navigates chaos effortlessly isn't skill. It's their fundamental orientation to reality.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's the shift from a passenger mentality to a driver mindset.
And we are going to break down exactly how to make that shift. We're looking at the psychology of control, a specific operating system for leadership, and honestly, a few mathematical formulas for trust and influence that I really wish I had learned 10 years ago.
The math is surprisingly helpful. It really is. But before we get to the formulas, we have to start with the core problem, the passenger mentality.
Right.
Because nobody thinks they are a passenger. We all think we're driving.
Of course.
Yeah.
Passenger sounds lazy. And the people listening to this are not lazy people.
And that's the trap. You can be an incredibly hardworking passenger. You can be the hardest working person in the company. But the defining characteristic of the passenger is reactivity and, more importantly, blame externalization.
The idea that the outcome is because of the environment.
Precisely. I didn't hit the target because the market is down.
No.
I couldn't finish the report because marketing didn't email me back.
I can't lead effectively because the culture here is toxic.
You've heard it a million times. It's a subtle form of learned helplessness. A passenger waits for the road conditions to be perfect before they believe they can move.
Whereas the driver, what's the definition there?
The driver accepts responsibility for the trajectory of the vehicle, regardless of the road conditions.
Okay, that's a heavy statement. Regardless of road conditions, because sometimes the road or the market or your boss, it really is terrible.
It is.
It feels unfair to say it's my responsibility if the road is full of potholes.
It is unfair. But Sopov grounds this in a really core concept from psychology called the locus of control. This comes from Julian Rotter's research way back in the 1950s.
Right.
It's really the foundational philosophy of the entire book.
I remember this from like Psych 101, but can you refresh us on how it applies here?
Sure. So it's a spectrum. On one end, you have an external locus of control. You believe outside forces, fate, luck, other people determine your success.
Things happen to me.
Exactly. On the other end is an internal locus of control. You believe your response determines the outcome. So Sopov argues that taking the wheel is essentially a migration.
A migration.
You have to literally migrate your psychology from external to internal.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? Because saying just take responsibility is easy, but in the heat of the moment, it's really hard.
It is. So Sopov operationalizes it. He says you have to move from a conditional if-then mindset
Do a what?
to a generative how-when mindset.
Give me a concrete example of that.
Okay, so an if-then mindset sounds like this. If corporate would just give us more budget, then we could finally innovate. Do you hear what that does? It hands all your power over to corporate. You're just waiting.
You've made your success conditional on someone else's action.
Exactly. A how-when mindset flips it. It says, how can we innovate with the resources we have right now, and when do we start?
It stops the waiting game.
It creates agency immediately.
There's a temporal shift there too, isn't there? The passenger seems stuck in the now.
That's a key insight. Yes, passengers live in the reactive present. They are staring at the bumper of the car in front of them, just trying not to crash.
While drivers operate in the anticipatory future.
They're scanning the horizon.
Which explains why the passenger is always shocked by the pothole.
Right.
And the driver is already swerving 3 seconds before they hit it.
The driver has already simulated the road ahead, but, and this is important, Sopov warns that this transition isn't just a mental switch you flip on a Monday morning.
It's a progression. It's messy.
It's very messy. He outlines 4 distinct stages of wheel-taking. Stage 1 is just awareness. That's the uncomfortable realization that you are currently being driven by someone else's agenda.
And it's usually pretty painful.
It can be.
Stage 2 is the one that really stood out to me, the decision to reach for the wheel. So Sopov notes that this is almost always accompanied by anxiety.
Yes.
Which is strange, right? We usually associate leadership with confidence, but he says the entry point is anxiety.
Well, think about it. Once you grab the wheel, you lose the right to complain. You can't blame the driver anymore.
If the car crashes, it's on you.
It's on you. And a lot of people prefer the safety of the passenger seat because it comes with built-in deniability. Hey, don't look at me, I just work here.
That is a crucial point. Complaining is safe. Driving is risky.
Precisely. Then you have stage 3, initial control acquisition. This is the clumsy phase.
The student driver phase.
Totally.
Yeah.
You might overcorrect, you might micromanage, you steer too hard. And then finally, stage 4 is masterful navigation, where it all becomes integrated and, effortless.
Okay, so let's assume we've braved the anxiety, we've grabbed the wheel, we're in the driver's seat, but in a professional context, you aren't driving a go-kart, you're usually driving a bus.
Mm-hmm. You have a team, stakeholders, clients.
And the passengers need to trust you not to drive them off a cliff.
Yeah, right. And Sopov calls trust the currency of leadership.
Which is a nice phrase, but what I liked is that he actually breaks it down into a structural framework. He says trust isn't just one vague feeling, it's 5 distinct pillars.
And this is incredibly helpful for diagnostics. If your team doesn't trust you, you need to know why.
You can't just say, trust me more.
Exactly. You need to identify the leak.
So let's run through them. First up is competence trust.
Simple. Can you actually do the job? If you grab the wheel, but you don't know how to operate the gears, people will panic.
Right.
No amount of charisma can fix incompetence.
Then there's character trust. This is about integrity.
Do you have hidden agendas? Are you honest? Then you have connection trust. Do people feel you actually care about them?
Or do they just feel like cargo?
Yes. If they think you view them as cargo, they will not trust you.
The fourth one, consistency trust, feels like the silent killer to me.
It kills a lot of new managers. Are you reliable or are you erratic? If your team doesn't know which version of you is walking through the door, the calm strategist or the stressed-out tyrant, they can't trust you.
They just spend all their energy reading your mood instead of working.
Mm-hmm. And the last one is communication trust, transparency. But here's where Sopov gets really interesting. He introduces a mathematical metaphor.
The compound interest effect of trust.
I love this concept. He argues that trust equals the sum of trustworthy actions, but then it's raised to the power of time and consistency.
So it's exponential.
It's exponential. And this explains why senior leaders get away with things that junior leaders just can't, doesn't it?
It totally does.
If you have 10 years of trust in the bank, all that compound interest, you can make a bad call, you can lose your temper, and you survive. You have capital to burn.
But a new leader.
They have 0 interest in the account. So if a new manager makes that same mistake in week 1,
they might bankrupt their influence immediately.
They go into debt. So the strategy for a new driver has to be small, relentless, consistent deposits. You're just building the principle.
Okay. So once you have the fuel of trust, you need a steering mechanism. This is where Sopov talks about the influence ecosystem.
Right. And he brings out another formula here.
The I equals C times A times R over S.
And don't let the algebra scare you. It's actually very intuitive. Influence, the I equals credibility times alignment times reciprocity. All divided by social friction.
Let's unpack the top part first. Credibility, alignment, reciprocity.
Credibility is your competence. Do they believe you know the way? Alignment is showing people how your destination helps their goals. And reciprocity is just that basic human instinct of, I help you, you help me.
And you want all those numbers high.
You do. But the denominator, social friction. That's the drag coefficient.
That's the killer.
It is. Social friction is office politics. Resistance to change, bad history between departments. You can have high credibility and great alignment, but if the social friction is massive, your influence score just plummets.
So a smart driver works on lowering the friction, not just shouting about their credibility.
Exactly. You grease the gears, you smooth the road. But the most counterintuitive part of this whole section is what Sopov calls the control paradox.
This stopped me in my tracks. The whole book is take the wheel, so you assume the advice is take control. Grab it, hold on tight.
But he says to gain influence, you often have to give up control.
Explain that.
This is the difference between the controller archetype and the empowerer.
Yeah.
The controller tries to steer every single aspect of the team's work. They micromanage.
They check every email.
Every single one. And what does that do to the passengers?
It turns them back into passengers.
Exactly. It reinforces the very behavior you're trying to stop. It creates learned helplessness. If you make every decision, your team just stops thinking.
They stop looking at the road because they know you'll do it for them.
So by gripping the wheel too tight, you actually lose control of the outcome because you lose your convoy.
Right.
The empowerer creates conditions where people choose to steer their own parts of the vehicle.
Sure.
When you give away ownership, you get back commitment. The most powerful leaders don't drive a bus where everyone is asleep in the back.
They lead a convoy of other drivers.
That's the goal.
That requires a lot of confidence, though. It's scary to let go of the wheel.
It is, but that's the only way to scale. And influence isn't just downward to your team. So Sopov talks about multi-directional influence.
Right, you have to steer upward leading your boss.
Which is an art form. He suggests solution bundling, which I have to say, I've actually started doing.
It's a great tactic.
It is. You never bring a problem to your boss without a bundled solution. It forces you to do the cognitive work before you even enter the room.
It trains your boss to see you as a solver, not just a reporter of bad news.
And then there's lateral influence leading peers when you don't have authority over them.
You can't order them to turn.
No. So that relies heavily on reciprocity engineering, helping them before you need them, building up that bank of goodwill.
Okay, so we have the psychology, the fuel of trust, the mechanics of influence. How do we actually operate this machine day to day?
Well, this is where Sopov outlines a leadership operating system. And the core of this OS is what he calls the vision cascading mechanism.
I love the line in the text. Vision without systematic implementation is hallucination.
It's brutal, but it's so true. We've all worked for leaders who have hallucinations, these grand 10-year visions, but nobody knows what to do on a Tuesday morning to make it happen.
There's a total disconnect. So how do we stop hallucinating?
So the Sopov proposes a 5-level framework to cascade the vision down. It starts at level 1 with the strategic vision, the 5-10-year dream. Level 2 is operational objectives, the 1-3-year goals. Level 3 is team initiatives. Level 4 is individual contributions.
And level 5.
Level 5 is daily rituals. The waterfall has to go all the way down to what you are doing right now.
So if your daily checklist doesn't draw a straight line back up to the 10-year vision,
the cascade is broken. You're just doing busy work.
He suggests a new hire test for this, which I found terrifyingly simple.
Yes. If a new employee cannot explain how their daily tasks contribute to the company's 5-year vision within their first week, your cascade has failed.
That is an incredibly high bar. I know people who've been at their jobs for 5 years and couldn't tell you the vision.
Which means they're just passengers. They're just rowing the boat without knowing where the shore is.
Part of this operating system is also about decision-making. So Sopov uses the DECIDE framework, but I want to zoom in on the distinction he makes between Type 1 and Type 2 decisions.
This is a concept often associated with Amazon and Jeff Bezos, but Sopov applies it specifically to the driver mindset. Type 1 decisions are irreversible. They are high stakes. One-way doors.
You can't go back, like quitting a job or acquiring a company.
Right. For those, you need to drive slow. Check the map. But Type 2 decisions are reversible. They're two-way doors. If you're wrong, you just U-turn.
And the problem is, I think most of us treat everything like a Type 1 decision.
Exactly. We agonize over the font size in a presentation or a low-stakes email as if it's a merger. That's paralysis by analysis.
Right.
A true driver identifies Type 2 decisions and just makes them fast to keep the car moving.
He also suggests a tool called the pre-mortem.
I love the pre-mortem. Most teams do a post-mortem analyzing the crash after it's already happened.
To see what went wrong.
A pre-mortem happens before you start. You gather the team and you say, okay, imagine it is 1 year from now and this project was a total disaster. Why did it happen?
It forces you to verbalize the risks you're usually too polite to mention.
It brings all the hidden dangers to the surface so you can steer around them. It removes optimism bias. It's defensive driving.
So we're driving. We have a map. We're making decisions. But the road is long. Driving requires focus. How do we keep from falling asleep at the wheel or burning out?
This brings us to resilience architecture. And Sopov makes a critical distinction here. You cannot manage time. You can only manage energy.
Which is a paradigm shift because we're all obsessed with time management.
Time is fixed. We all get 24 hours. Energy is variable. Sopov talks about ultradian rhythms. Our bodies operate in these 90 to 120-minute energy cycles.
Hmm.
A passenger tries to push through the slump with caffeine and willpower, which eventually leads to a crash. A driver respects the cycle. They sprint, then they recover.
So resting isn't avoiding driving, it's vehicle maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He also mentions emotional granularity as a resilience tool.
This is about vocabulary, right? Why does having more words for your feelings help you drive better?
Well, most people have a really limited emotional vocabulary. I'm stressed or I'm mad. So Popov argues you need to be precise. Are you stressed or are you feeling overwhelmed by the ambiguity of the project scope?
I see, because you can solve ambiguity. You can't really solve stress.
Correct. Naming the specific emotion allows you to regulate it. It prevents the emotion from hijacking the steering wheel and, swerving into traffic.
It keeps the logical driver online.
Exactly.
Finally, the book touches on legacy, and I really appreciated that he doesn't frame legacy as something you think about when you retire.
No, for Sopov, legacy is a daily practice. He says legacy is not what you leave for people, it's what you leave in people.
That's a powerful shift.
He breaks it down. There's institutional legacy building systems that run without you. Human capital legacy developing successors who are better than you.
And contribution legacy.
Right. Solving problems that matter outside your own walls.
It's the idea of planting trees under whose shade you never expect to sit.
And that leads to the final archetype in the book, the wisdom holder.
A wisdom holder.
This is the ultimate evolution of the driver. The wisdom holder understands that they are just a temporary custodian of influence. They aren't clutching the wheel to feed their ego.
They are steering to serve the passengers.
And crucially, to teach others how to drive.
They are working themselves out of a job.
In the best possible way.
So we've covered a lot, from the psychology of the driver to the mechanics of trust to the operating system. But for the listener who is sitting there thinking, okay, this sounds great, but I have 400 unread emails, my boss is screaming, and I am drowning.
Yeah, I can't just take the wheel.
Right.
So Satterpuff offers a very practical exercise for that. He calls it the first turn of the wheel. It's designed for exactly that feeling of drowning.
How does it work?
It's a one-week challenge. You track your time in 30-minute increments. Just write down what you did. Then you categorize every block as either driver time or passenger time.
Driver time being strategic, creative, deciding things, and passenger time being reacting, apologizing, putting out fires.
And most people are shocked to find there are maybe 90% passengers.
Yeah.
But the goal isn't to fix it overnight. The goal is just to convert 30 minutes a day.
Just 30 minutes.
That's it. Take one reactive meeting off your calendar and replace it with 30 minutes of strategic thinking. Delegate one task. That little bit proves to your brain that you have agency.
It cracks the learned helplessness.
It does. And once you realize you can steer for 30 minutes, you start to wonder, what if I steered for an hour?
What if I steered all afternoon?
That is how the transformation begins. It's about momentum.
So at the end of the day, what's the message?
Ultimately, the message of take the wheel is that the wheel is always right there. It's in front of you. The question isn't whether you are capable of grabbing it. The question is whether you will choose to face the anxiety, take the responsibility, and drive.
That is the perfect place to leave it. The wheel is there. It's up to you to reach for it.
Drive safe.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.